In the year 701, the Empress of China ordered her own granddaughter executed. 17 years old.
8 months pregnant. That same year, across her empire, the people prayed for the Empress's health. She killed her sister. The people threw flowers. She killed her sons. The people threw flowers.
She killed her granddaughter. The people threw flowers.
For 50 years, the most reviled woman in 3,000 years of Chinese history was also the most loved. Her name was Wu Zetian, and tonight I unroll a scroll I may never finish.
This is case file number 3. The year is 637. A 14-year-old girl walks into the imperial palace for the first time. Her mother weeps at the gate. The girl turns back and says, "How do you know this is not my fortune?" She does not look back again. The emperor will call her May, the charming one. She is the second daughter of a timber merchant. No royal blood, no allies, no protection. What she does have is a memory. Years later, the emperor would tell a story at court. He had a stallion no one could tame, a killer that had thrown 3 trainers into the dirt. He asked his concubines what they would do with such a beast. The 14-year-old girl raised her hand. She said, "Give me an iron whip. If it does not obey, give me an iron mace. If it still does not obey, give me a dagger, and I will cut its throat." The court laughed. The emperor did not. He looked at the child for a long time, and he never summoned her to his chambers again. For the next 12 years, she watched. She watched concubines rise and fall. She watched ministers vanish overnight. She watched the most powerful man in the world grow old. And she learned the only lesson her mother never taught her. Power does not come to you. You come to it. 12 years of silence. She had not killed anyone yet, but she had counted everyone who would have to die. The empire would not see her coming. 649. The old emperor is dying. He has not summoned her in 12 years, but now in his final illness, his son comes to nurse him. He will become the next emperor. He has a wife. He has a favorite concubine who he loves more than his wife. He sees Wu in the corner of his dying father's room, and he forgets them all. Tradition is absolute. When an emperor dies, his concubines have one fate. Their heads are shaved. They are sent to a Buddhist convent. They never return. At 26, Wu Zetian is sent to a Buddhist convent, dressed in white robes, to live and die forgotten. She has other plans. From the convent, she writes a poem. One poem. She has it smuggled into the palace. It is a love letter to a married man, the new emperor. 1 year later, the new emperor visits the convent to pray for his dead father. He sees her again, and the empire is already lost. But here is what makes Wu Zetian different from every concubine before her. She did not return as the emperor's lover. She returned at the invitation of his wife. The empress cannot have children. The favorite concubine has the emperor's heart and his children. The empress is losing. So she invites Wu back to court. A new face, a distraction, a weapon against her rival. The empress has just made the worst decision of her life. Within 4 years, Wu Zetian has given the emperor 2 sons. Within 4 years, the favorite concubine is sidelined. Within 4 years, the empress has stopped sleeping. And then, in the year 654, Wu Zetian gives birth to a daughter, a baby girl, 1 week old. The empress visits the nursery, holds the child, leaves. Minutes later, Wu Zetian walks in. She finds her daughter dead in the cradle. She runs to the emperor weeping. She tells him the empress was the last person to hold the child. The emperor believes her. The empress is stripped of her title. Wu Zetian becomes empress in her place. For 1,300 years, historians have asked one question. Did the empress really kill the baby? Or did Wu Zetian smother her own newborn daughter to take a throne? We will never know. But we know what happened next. Wu Zetian had the fallen empress's hands and feet cut off. She had her rivals' hands and feet cut off. She had their living bodies thrown into vats of wine. And as the dying woman bled to death, she screamed a curse. In my next life, I will be born a cat, and she will be born a mouse, and I will tear her throat out for eternity. From that day forward, no cat was ever allowed inside the imperial palace. Wu Zetian was 31 years old. She had just become Empress of China. She had 36 more years of killing to do. 3 men made Wu Zetian Empress. The first was the emperor's own uncle, the most powerful minister in the empire. The second was the chancellor who had served 3 emperors, a living legend. The third was her husband, the emperor himself, the man who loved her enough to break tradition for her. Within 10 years, all 3 would be destroyed. She started with the men. The uncle had opposed her coronation. He had begged the emperor on his knees not to make her empress. In 659, he was accused of treason, false evidence, false witnesses, false confession. He was exiled. On the road, soldiers arrived with a silk rope. They told him to hang himself. He did. His entire family wiped out. The chancellor died alone in exile. His sons, his grandsons, all executed. His name was struck from the records. One by one, every minister who had ever opposed her rise vanished. But she did not stop with the men in the throne room. She had an older sister. After her sister's husband died, she came to live in the palace, to be near her younger sister, the Empress. That was her mistake. The emperor noticed her. They began an affair. In 666, the sister died suddenly, poisoned. The official explanation was natural illness. No one in the palace believed it. The sister had a daughter, a teenage girl, beautiful, charming. The emperor noticed her too. She was poisoned at a family banquet, in food sent as a gift from her own cousins. The cousins were executed for the murder. They had not done it. But the empress always had someone else to blame. There was only one person left in the palace who could still stop her husband, the emperor. In 660, the emperor suffered a stroke. He could no longer read documents. He could no longer hold court. She sat behind a silk screen at his side. She read the documents to him. She told him what to sign. She gave the orders. He nodded. Foreign ambassadors came to the palace and reported back to their kings. There are now 2 emperors of China, and one of them is a woman. For 23 years, her husband sat on the throne while she ruled. 23 years of headaches. 23 years of failing eyesight. 23 years of exotic medicines prescribed by the Empress's personal physicians. In 683, the emperor died. Chinese tradition demands that an emperor die surrounded by his family, his wife, his sons, his ministers, to witness his last words. He died alone. No witnesses, no final words, no record of what he said in his last hour. His wife was the only one in the room. She walked out and announced his death herself. For 1,300 years, historians have asked the same question they asked about her infant daughter. Did the emperor die of his stroke? Or did the empress finally finish a job that had taken her 23 years? We will never know. But we know what happened the next morning. Wu Zetian woke up the most powerful person in China, and every single person who had ever helped her get there was dead. I have closed cases like this before. Tyrant kills rivals. Tyrant takes throne. Tyrant rules. This is the part where the story usually ends. But Wu Zetian was just getting started. She had 4 sons. She would destroy all 4 of them. The first son was brilliant, compassionate, beloved by the court. He was named Crown Prince at the age of 4. As he grew older, he began to question his mother. He defended the memory of his baby sister, the one his mother had blamed on the previous empress. He pleaded for the daughters of his mother's victims to be allowed to marry. He was kind, and kindness in his mother's court was a death sentence. In 675, at the age of 23, the first son died suddenly during a family banquet. Officially, a sudden illness. His father, the emperor, wept openly. He did something no Chinese emperor had ever done before. He posthumously elevated his dead son to emperor. He could not save his son from his wife. He could only crown his ghost. The second son was clever, cautious. He had survived watching his older brother die. But there was a rumor in the palace. A rumor that he was not the Empress's son at all. A rumor that he was the son of her older sister, the one she had poisoned. The son heard the rumor. He wrote a poem. It survives to this day. The poem of a son who suspects his mother is going to kill him. One line reads, "The melon vine is cut, the melon falls, the mother does not weep." He was right. In 680, the second son was accused of treason. Hundreds of suits of armor were found in his stables. He swore he had never seen them. No one believed him. His own mother sat as judge. He was stripped of his title, banished to a remote province, and 4 years later his mother sent assassins after him. He was forced to hang himself in exile. He was 30 years old. The third son took the throne when his father died. He lasted 6 weeks. His mistake was small. He told his ministers that he wanted to give a high office to his wife's father. When the ministers objected, he said in anger, "I am the emperor. If I want to give the empire to my father-in-law, who can stop me?" His mother heard those words. The next morning, soldiers entered the throne room. They pulled the emperor down from his throne. Wu Zetian stood in the chamber and announced, "A man who would give the empire to his in-laws cannot rule it." She demoted him to commoner. She exiled him. He would spend the next 14 years waiting to be murdered. He survived only because his mother forgot him. She replaced him with the fourth son. The fourth son was wiser than his brothers. He had watched 3 of them fall. He never gave an order. He never spoke in court. He sat on the throne in silence while his mother ruled from behind the screen. When she demanded he abdicate, he abdicated. When she demanded his wife and concubine be killed for witchcraft, he said nothing. They were executed in the dungeons. Their bodies were never found. The fourth son did not ask where they were buried. He had learned the lesson that had killed his brothers. In 690, at the age of 67, she demoted her last surviving son to crown prince. She walked up the steps of the imperial throne herself. She declared a new dynasty. She declared a new title, Holy and Divine Sovereign Emperor. For the first and last time in 3,000 years of Chinese history, a woman was emperor. She was 67 years old. She had killed her saviors. She had killed her sister. She had killed her niece. She had killed her husband. She had killed 2 of her sons. And the most dangerous decade of her life was about to begin. She had taken the throne. Now she had to keep it. She did it by inventing something the world had never seen before. A government that ran on betrayal. In the year 686, copper boxes appeared outside every government building in the capital. Anyone, peasant, merchant, scholar, slave, could write a secret accusation and drop it inside. The Empress read every single one, personally. If your accusation was true, you were rewarded. If your accusation was false, nothing happened to you. She wanted the boxes full. She got what she wanted. Within a year, no minister in the empire trusted his own colleagues. Within 2 years, no son trusted his father. Within 5 years, the highest officials in the empire said goodbye to their wives every morning before going to court. They did not expect to come home. To run the system, the Empress hired men. Not soldiers, not generals, thugs. The most feared was named Lai Junchen. He had been a petty thief, a street criminal, a liar. The Empress promoted him to the highest rank of secret police. He wrote a book. He called it The Classic of Accusation. It was a step-by-step manual on how to destroy an innocent man. How to forge a confession, how to invent a witness, how to design a torture that broke a man in 3 days. This book was used to murder thousands. But here is the most terrifying story of his career. It is not about a victim. It is about another torturer. His name was Zhou Xing, another man as cruel as Lai was. One day, the Empress quietly told Lai, "I have heard Zhou is plotting treason." She gave him the order, investigate, make him confess. Lai invited him to lunch. They drank wine. They laughed. After the second cup, Lai leaned in. "I have a stubborn prisoner who refuses to confess. What method would you recommend?" His friend's eyes lit up. "Easy. Take a great clay urn, build a fire underneath, heat it until it glows red, then put the prisoner inside." Lai nodded slowly. He clapped his hands. His servants brought a great clay urn into the room. They built a fire underneath. The urn began to glow red. Lai rose from his seat. His face hardened. "Brother Zhou, Her Imperial Majesty has heard of your treason. Please, step into your own urn." His friend fell to his knees. He confessed everything. To this day, when a tyrant is destroyed by his own methods, there is a phrase for it. "Please, sir, step into the urn." Wu Zetian's secret police destroyed her secret police. She had built a machine that ate everything around it, including her own family. In the year 701, an empire-wide whisper reached the Empress. Her granddaughter, Princess Yongtai, had been heard criticizing the Empress's lovers in private. The girl was 17 years old. She was 8 months pregnant. With her were her husband, the Empress's grandnephew, and her older brother, the Empress's grandson, 19 years old. They had whispered, in their own bedroom, behind closed doors. The Empress ordered all 3 of them executed. The husband first, the brother second. The girl was given a different sentence. She was forced to take poison. She died with her unborn child still inside her. Her father, the third son, the one who had lasted 6 weeks on the throne, was in the palace that night. He was the girl's father. He was the boy's father. He was the Empress's son. He said nothing. He had learned the lesson that had killed his brothers. When archaeologists opened Princess Yongtai's tomb in 1960, they found her epitaph. It said she had died in childbirth. It was a lie. It was the only lie her family had been allowed to write on her grave. By 700, 12 branches of the old imperial family had been wiped out. Tens of thousands of people gone. The empire ran on fear. And every morning, in fields and villages 1,000 miles from the capital, the people prayed for the Empress's long life, for her health, for her wisdom, for her continued reign. By any measure I know how to apply, this case is closed. Verdict, guilty. But there is another scroll in this library. Tonight, I am going to unroll it. Here is what I do not understand. Wu Zetian ruled for 50 years. In an empire of 50 million people, there was not a single peasant rebellion. Not one. I have read every record this empire kept. There has never been a 50-year reign in Chinese history without a peasant rebellion, except hers. Why? While she was murdering her family in the palace, she was building something else outside of it. A peasant in the year 700 kept most of his harvest for the first time in 3 centuries. His son could take an examination she had opened to commoners, not just to the sons of nobles. A fisherman's boy could become a minister, if he could pass. She did not care if you were Chinese either. Foreign generals, men whose ancestors had been enemies of the empire, rose to the highest commands in her armies. Most of them died serving her, some on the battlefield, many in their own cells, accused by the secret police she had built. And she did one more thing, something so small that historians barely mention it. She passed a law saying when a child's mother died, that child must mourn her for 3 years. The same length of time he had to mourn his father. For 2,000 years before her, Chinese law had said a mother was worth less. Wu Zetian struck out that law with a single signature. She had executed her own granddaughter, and she had given every other mother in China 3 years of mourning. I have closed many cases. I have never closed one where the same woman did both, while she was poisoning her granddaughter in 701. A peasant somewhere in her empire was sending his son to an exam he could never have taken without her. While she was forcing her sons to die, A foreign-born general was leading her armies into victory before she had him killed. While the screams of Princess Yongtai echoed in the palace dungeons, a mother in a small village was burying her own mother and being granted 3 years to grieve her. How do I write a verdict for a woman like this? She was a monster. She was also the reason millions of ordinary people lived better than their parents had. Both things are true. Both things happened in the same body, on the same throne, in the same 50 years. I do not know what to do with that, and I am not sure she did either. She was 61 years old when she took her first lover. His name does not matter. He sold herbs on the streets of her capital. He was tall, handsome, loud, stupid. There was one problem. A Chinese empress could not openly take a man into her bedchamber, so she had his head shaved. She had him ordained as a Buddhist monk. She gave him a new name. She made him abbot of the most prestigious temple in the empire. A monk could enter the palace freely. A monk could pray with the empress at any hour. A monk could do what an empress's lover could not. For 10 years, the monk was the second most powerful person in China. He rode through her capital on an imperial horse. Ministers bowed when he passed. He beat anyone who did not. He grew bored of being a monk. He grew jealous of his empress. In 695, Wu Zetian took a new lover, her personal physician. The monk found out. That night, he burned down the 2 greatest buildings she had ever built. It had taken 7 years to construct them. They burned to the ground in one night. He had destroyed the symbols of her empire. He thought she would forgive him. She did not. 2 weeks later, she sent him a message. "Come pray with me." He went. Inside the hall, 100 soldiers were waiting. They beat him to death where he stood. They wrapped his body in cloth. They carried it to the temple she had given him, and they burned the body to ashes. Then they ground the ashes into clay, and they used the clay to build a small pagoda inside the temple grounds. For the rest of her life, Wu Zetian visited that temple to pray. Pilgrims still walk past that pagoda today. Most of them do not know what it is made of. After the monk, Wu Zetian was different. She was 70 years old. She had outlived everyone she had ever loved or feared. She took 2 new lovers, 2 brothers, beautiful, young, wearing makeup. They were nothing like the monk. He had been a thug who burned her empire. These were boys who painted their faces and laughed at her jokes. She built them a pavilion. She filled it with poets and fortune-tellers. The empress who had once read every accusation in her empire now spent her days listening to old men lie about magic. The brothers had no royal blood, but they had her ear, and they were starting to think they could keep her throne after she was gone. In the early hours of February 20th, 705, the chief minister led 500 soldiers into the palace. They went straight to the empress's bedroom. The brothers were sleeping in the empress's antechamber. The soldiers killed them where they lay. Wu Zetian woke up to the sound of swords. She sat up in her bed, 81 years old, white hair, thin hands. The chief minister entered her chamber. He told her, "The brothers are dead. Your son must take the throne." She looked at him for a long time. She said one sentence, "I knew this day would come." She did not fight. She did not weep. She signed the abdication that morning. For 50 years, she had ruled China. It ended in a single night. They moved her to a smaller palace. They took away her seal. They took away her servants. They left her with a window and a bed. She lived 9 more months. She refused to eat. She refused to speak. She refused to be called emperor. On December 16, 705, Wu Zetian, once holy and divine sovereign emperor, died alone in a bed in a forgotten palace. She left exactly one instruction. 1 year later, her son buried her in the imperial tomb, beside the husband she had ruled for 50 years. Beside her grave, 2 stone tablets were raised. The first was for her husband, 8,000 characters of golden calligraphy written by their son. The second was for Wu Zetian, 8 meters tall, 90 tons of stone, carved with intertwining dragons and clouds. It bears not a single word, not her name, not her dates, not a single character of judgment. They call it the wordless stele. For 1,300 years, historians have argued why it is blank. Some say pride, that no inscription could contain her achievements. Some say humility, that she had killed too many to deserve one. Some say she trusted only the future to write the verdict. The fourth answer is the saddest. Her son could not write one. He had watched her kill his older brothers. He had watched her exile him for 14 years. He had watched her execute his own daughter, Princess Yongtai, 8 months pregnant. He could not write she was great. He could not write she was evil. He could not write she was loved. He could not write she was hated. All four would have been true. So he raised the most magnificent stele in China, and he left it blank. I have closed many cases. This one I cannot. She killed her saviors. She killed her sons. She killed her granddaughter. She gave 1 billion people for 1,300 years a chance to rise above the family they were born into. She gave Chinese mothers 3 years of mourning. She left a stone with nothing on it. She was a monster. She was also a master. Both things were true. Both things happened in the same body, on the same throne, in the same 50 years. Maybe she could not decide. Maybe history itself still cannot. Case file number 3. Verdict. Pending. Forever. There is a shelf in my library for the scrolls I cannot finish. Tonight, it has one on it. Next time, the final case. The Empress who locked her own son inside a palace until he died. The Empress who drank tea while 3,000 years of Chinese history collapsed around her. They called her the Old Buddha. They were not being kind.